Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Sinta Budiyanti. My number is 09190134111. I'm from Department of English Education in third semester, exactly in morning class. So in here, I'd like to presentation for my final test. I'd like to answer the number 3 on my final test. So it's about analyze and explain the meaning of one of the poem in my final test. So let's start it. I choose The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls for my poem analyze. The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. The tide rises, the tide falls. The twilight darkens, the curlew calls. Along the sea sands, damp and brown, the traveler hastens toward the dawn. And the tide rises, the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in the darkness calls. The little waves with their soft white hands erase the footprints in the sand. And the tide rises, the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds in their tails stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. The day returns, but nevermore return, the traveler to the shore, and the tide rises, the tide falls. Okay, I like to explain and analyze from these poems one. From my lecturer served in my assignment, there's only one stanza in there, but actually, from my analyze, there are 3 stanza in there. But there are a lot of meaning from this poem. So, I'd like to explain my analyze per stanza by stanza. Okay, let's start from the stanza 1. The tide rises, the tide falls. From the meaning of rise and falls, it can be means when we are alive, they're going in an up and down condition. But specifically, in this poem, I think from the rise and falls, it can be symbolic from life and death. Rise is life and falls is death. But who is life and death in these poems, we still doesn't know, right? So we are going to the next stanza to know what's the meaning from this. The twilight darkens, the curlew calls. The curlew. What is curlew? For your information, curlew is the bird on the sea. So why the curlew calls? Because there are some reasoning for the curlew calls, right? Along the sea sand, damp and brown, the traveler hastens toward the town. So the mean, the curlew calls for the traveler because the traveler hastens toward the town. But why? What's the symbolic from the town that the traveler hastens toward? From my analyze, the traveler going back to the town, so he's leaving from the sea, right? But why? So it's mean when he end up dying, the symbolic from the town can be heaven or whatever we call it, but for make sure that the town is the symbolic from the place when the traveler was died. So it's the rest place, something like that. Okay, we are going to the next stanza. It's stanza 2. In the stanza 2, darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in the darkness calls. The sea in the darkness calls, it's the same meaning from the curlew calls in the previous stanza that we explained it. It's mean when the traveler was died, he is in final resting place, so it's calling when he was in resting place, something like that. The little waves with their soft white hands, it's the personification that it's clearly erasing footprints on the sand. So it is symbolic, all of the stuff that the traveler did in his life will be erased when he was died. Okay, we are going to the next stanza. The last stanza is stanza 3. The morning breaks, the steed in their stalls stamp at night as the hostler calls. The morning breaks. As long as we know that the traveler, he was died, right? And the morning breaks, it's symbolic when the next day or the new day or we are going to start a new day. But we already know that the traveler was died, so the meaning from the next line, the day returns but never more return, the traveler to the shore. It means so when the morning it's coming, but the traveler was died, so he never coming back to life again because he was died. Stamp at night as the hostler calls, so it means that when the traveler die, normally the words nothing has really changed, so the kind life goes on. Okay, so the conclusion from this poem is about life and death. So as human beings, normally we are in this condition, we are born, and then in the next is we will be died. But after that, there is someone else that will be born. So it's just a circle of the life. That's all. I'm so sorry if there are a lot of mistakes from my explanation and my analysis. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.